the hope hidden in humanity's oldest wounds. The discovery at the end of chapter 3 cut through scholars like a knife. Civilizations that had never met, never traded, never touched the same soil, had collapsed in the same pattern, at nearly the same points in their lifespans. Different continents, different climates, different languages, gods, and rulers, but the same rise, the same peak, the same decline, the same silence. Historians stared at their charts and asked the question no one wanted to face. If every civilization before us followed the same path, what does that mean for ours? Some went quiet. Some rejected the idea. Some were terrified. But a few saw something else, something almost invisible hidden behind fear, a chance to break the pattern, the world on the edge of understanding. The late modern era was noisy, bright, chaotic, a world built on speed and invention. Yet beneath the noise, the echoes of lost civilizations were growing louder. Old warnings were becoming modern problems. Climate pressure, widening gaps between rich and poor, political fractures, resource struggles, overexpansion, cultural divide. The same elements that had swallowed empires like the Maya, oldkingdomegypt, the Akkadian Empire, and Angkor were now appearing again, not in one region, but everywhere at once. For the first time in history, humanity saw itself in the ruins it had once pitted. Historians wrote books comparing modern nations to ancient ones. Scientists warned that Earth was close to the stress points that toppled past societies. Writers filled newspapers with reflections on fallen empires. People felt something shifting, like the ground under civilization was humming, asking to be heard. But unlike the lost worlds that collapsed in isolation, humanity now lived in a connected age. The world had a choice to make, the Great Turning. The turning point did not come from a king, president, or general. It began with ordinary people doing what ancient civilizations never could. They listened. Farmers studied how ancient societies survived droughts. City planners rebuilt based on lessons from vanished metropolises. Teachers taught not only the victories of the past, but the mistakes. Engineers redesigned systems that had once pushed empires into ruin. In labs and classrooms, in quiet libraries and bustling research halls, one idea started forming. If we understand why civilizations fell, we can learn how to keep our standing. It was a quiet revolution, a shift in thinking so small that no one noticed at first. But history would, because this was the first time the human species tried something completely new, not repeating the past. A civilization that remembers. Humanity began studying ancient collapses the way doctors study old diseases, not out of curiosity, but to prevent them from returning. From the Maya, people learned how to adapt to changing rainfall. From Mesopotamia, how to prevent soil from dying. From the Romans, how to maintain infrastructure and avoid political fractures. From ancient China, how cycles of corruption and inequality destabilize nations. From great Zimbabwe and ancient Sahara cultures, how trade networks rise and fall. From the indusvalley, how fragile systems collapse when communication breaks down. The forgotten dead were suddenly humanity's greatest teachers. Every ruin became a classroom. Every broken wall became a warning. Every lost city became a message across time saying, "This happened to us. It does not have to happen to you." Humanity began changing, slowly but visibly, when the world finally opened its eyes. By the 21st century, something extraordinary emerged. A generation grew up with instant access to the entire history of human civilization. A child in America could study the rise of ancient Benin. A child in Nigeria could learn about Vikings, the Han Dynasty, or the Olmecs. A child in India could watch documentaries about Rome, Mali, or Angkor. A child in Brazil could read about the Persian Empire or prehistoric Europe. For the first time ever, the human story belonged to everyone. And the more people learned, the more they began to see a truth that had always been there, but never understood. We were never many civilizations. We have always been one long civilization, evolving, collapsing, learning, rising again. The world was not a collection of separate stories. It was one story, a single thread connecting ancient villages to modern cities. People were finally seeing it, a new kind of strength. Past civilizations built walls. Stone walls, cultural walls, religious walls, political walls. But modern civilization built bridges, digital bridges, trade bridges, educational bridges, medical bridges, cultural bridges. For the first time, information moved faster than fear. A drought in one region could be supported by food from another. A medical discovery in one country could save lives in dozens more. An archaeological warning could shift global policy within days. A lesson about a fallen empire could reshape modern governments. Humans were finally doing what ancient worlds never managed, sharing what they learned fast enough to prevent disaster. And this became humanity's strongest weapon against collapse. Not power, not wealth, not armies, memory. Standing at the edge of tomorrow, humanity still faced challenges, huge ones, but no civilization before had ever faced them with the combined knowledge of thousands of past worlds at its fingertips. Every empire before had believed it would last forever. Every empire before had ignored the signs. Every empire before had fallen alone. But the modern world was not alone. It stood on the shoulders of every civilization that came before. The astronomers of Mesopotamia, the engineers of Rome, the philosophers of Greece, the mathematicians of India, the scholars of Timbuktu, the navigators of Polynesia, the builders of the Americas, the scientists of the Islamic Golden Age, the artisans of ancient China, the storytellers of every tribe and village ever known, the entire history of humanity, every genius, every idea, every survival, was now available to everyone. And this changed everything. For the first time, the world could look at itself with thousands of years of vision. The final lesson. As scholars assembled their data from the discovery in Chapter 3, the conclusion became clear. Humanity's future was not set. Civilizations did not collapse because collapse was inevitable. They fell because they refused to change. But the modern world had something no past civilization ever did. The ability to see the pattern before reaching the breaking point. The ability to connect across oceans in seconds. The ability to share knowledge faster than crises. The ability to turn warnings into action. The ability to learn not just from one culture, but from all of them. It was the greatest gift left by the ruins of the world. The gift of perspective. The gift of memory. The gift of possibility. The hope in the ashes. And so humanity stood here, at the edge of history, at the beginning of a new chapter, carrying every lesson ever written in clay tablets, scrolls, carvings, inks, photographs, digital files, and living memory. We are the first civilization that can see the entire map of the past. And because of that, we can choose a different path. We can rise without collapsing. We can grow without repeating old mistakes. We can build without forgetting who we are and where we came from. We can use the wisdom of every civilization, from the humblest village to the greatest empire, to create a future none of them ever reached. Humanity is not destined to fall. We are destined to learn. And the story does not end in ruins. It ends in hope, the kind earned by thousands of years of struggle, triumph, failure, discovery, and rebirth. The ancient world whispers its final message to us. We walk so you could see farther. Now go and build what we never could. This is the end of the documentary story, but it is not the end of the human story. That part is still being written. Now, short brief. The final chapter brings the entire story of humanity full circle, from ancient ruins to the rise of new cultures, kingdoms, and global societies. This episode explores how civilizations rebuilt themselves after collapse, forming new identities and new systems that shaped the modern age. Through real historical evidence, Chapter 4 reveals how trade networks link distant civilizations, the rise of classical empires and global religions, the scientific, cultural, and technological revolutions, the birth of modern nations and global connections, how lessons from ancient history still guide the world today. This is a story of resilience, how humanity learned from the past and expanded into a connected global civilization. The journey ends here, but the story continues in every culture, every discovery, and every mystery still buried below the earth. What part of this chapter inspired you the most? Share below, and subscribe to Pastmyst, Echoes of the Past, where forgotten stories rise again. This channel is dedicated to uncovering the mysteries, legends, and hidden truths buried deep within history. From ancient civilizations to untold events that shaped our world, Pastmyst brings the past back to life through powerful storytelling, cinematic narration, and engaging documentaries. If you love history, mystery, or stories that make you think, you're in the right place. Subscribe and join a growing community of people who believe that every story has an echo. You just have to listen. What to expect on this channel: short but powerful historical stories, rare events and forgotten legends, unexplained mysteries from different civilizations, inspiring tales of ancient heroes, eye-opening facts they never taught you in school. Hit the subscribe button to stay updated as we begin this journey through time. Your adventure into history starts now. Welcome to Pastmyst, Echoes of the Past.